Well, TJ, two playoff games, both of them at Ford Field, both of them wins for the Detroit Lions. They're heading out to San Francisco for the NFC Championship game.
Wait, what?
I know. I can't hardly. You and I have been a little bit bolder with our predictions than most, but I don't think even you or I thought at the beginning of the year or even halfway through the year, certainly not after Thanksgiving, thought that we would be talking about a team in the NFC Championship game. Tell us a little bit about the experience at Ford Field. What was it like after the game?
All season long, Ford Field has really turned into one of the best places to play in the league. Yep. It's such a fun atmosphere. It's a rowdy atmosphere. It's probably intimidating for the other teams to come in. And because, the one thing about our fans too is like, we don't allow other teams to take over our stadium.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Sell them tickets.
You didn't see much red in the stands yesterday.
No, if it was red, they were probably wearing Red Wings garb because they were going to go to the LCA after the game.
All season long. I've known this for a long time. I'm playing in 8 years in Green Bay and coming to Ford Field. You knew what kind of potential that place had. And I played in a couple games where we were like, man, this place is kind of intimidating. Like it feels like a dungeon almost, like just a concrete jungle down there. And you saw what kind of potential it had. But this season, man, these fans have taken it to a new level, and it's been consistent week in, week out. The coach Campbell yesterday after the game talked about it. A bunch of players talked about just what it was like playing at Ford Field this year. Really done something special, man. They've changed expectations, and look, I think it helps too when the players tell the fans exactly how much of a difference it makes. You know what I mean? Because as a fan, you don't really know, are we really making a difference? I don't know. But when you hear the players confirm that you are, that obviously gives you more motivation, more pride to, do that week in, week out. Yesterday was, it was awesome. It was a fitting send out, for this team. Last game at home for this season, at least. And, the great part was even after the game, watching how many people were still in their seats. And, they did a couple on-field interviews with the players over the loud system and just hearing the roars and the Jared Goff chants. And if I was a free agent, like Detroit would be high up on my list. It just looks like such a fun place to play. And it is a fun place to play. These guys love it here, and they love playing for Dan Campbell. And yesterday was it was incredible, man. It was incredible. We knew it was probably going to be a bit of a dogfight, right? Which what it was, especially in the first half, 10-10 going into half, and got to make some adjustments. Hey, defense, just keep holding them, man, until you give our offense a little bit more time to get something going, and once we get going, we'll be all right. And they did. They went on 3 straight scoring drives there at the end of the third, start of the fourth, which made the difference. But you take pride in it. You know what I mean? Like, and there's so much pride going around, whether it's fans, whether it's players, whether it's, I got to play here for 2 years. But, for the former players, the alumni, John, you played here. Yeah. You feel like what these guys are doing is not just for them or not just for the coaches. And we're not taking any credit when I say this, but like, I think for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of alumni like us out there that are proud to be, Detroit Lions alumni. And we're proud to play that we played for this team. Now, we know we didn't have the success that these guys had, but this is what we all wanted to do, right? So we all feel like we're kind of a small part of it as well. And that's what I respect a lot and appreciate from these players is they're changing the narrative around this city, around this team. And it's been great for me to be on the sideline and watch and get another chance this week to go to San Fran and just keep believing, man. Just keep hoping. I mean, there's 4 teams that get to work today, right? And there's 28 teams
that are wishing
planning some golf trips, right? Getting out of town. And Detroit Lions are still working, man. It's incredible. And
we are at this point in January normally talking about our, third mock draft.
Right.
And, who do we want? Who is going to be the key for
who's going to be there at 18 for us to get this year?
And so now it is, hey, you're going to be picking 29, 30, 31, or 32.
Yeah.
And at this point, you might as well be picking 32. And we'll talk about the matchup with San Francisco a little bit later in the program. And later this week, I'll get a chance to talk more about it. But let's talk more about what happened at Ford Field yesterday. And that was, and I've said this before. I've always wanted to watch a Lions team or a local team be in a heavyweight bout and at least be in the game. Now we've had 2 heavyweight bouts, and when the Rams came in here, they came in with their A game. They came in flying high, thinking that, hey, Matthew Stafford, that passing game, they were going to come out with a win. And a lot of people were picking the Rams to win. Detroit said no. And then Tampa coming in here, Baker Mayfield, he's a winner. He's scrappy. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, they were coming in here on a high, with great rhythm and rightfully so. They had won some games at the end of the year. They earned the right to be, coming to Detroit to play us in the divisional round. But the Lions have always responded. I want to ask you this. In the 60 minutes of playing, so it's not any moments after, nothing leading up to it, but in the 60 minutes, in your opinion, what was the key moment of that game? If you had to, put it in one play or in one moment, what was the key moment of that game?
I think the first key was getting a stop coming out of halftime. Yeah. Because Tampa had just got a little bit of momentum going into half. They went on a 90-play drive in that 2-minute situation to tie the game up. Right there, you felt like I think there was no point in the first half where you felt like, oh man, like I'm kind of nervous about the way this game's going. But that was the moment that was like, oh, we gotta wake up. We gotta go now, right? And Tampa coming out of half, getting the ball, started moving it a little bit. Went 6 plays, 20 some yards, and then third down. I think it was right about midfield. Hutchinson comes up with a huge sack. Oh yeah, and it's like, my goodness, like that was massive to make sure you never gave the lead up. Later in the game, I think it might have been, I think on the second touchdown drive of the second half.
The one that Gibbs had the long run on? Yeah,
or maybe it was, here, let me look at it. Actually, it was the last touchdown. I'm sorry.
Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Third and 15. Yeah. 3rd and 15, where extremely low percentage play, right? I mean, a lot of times we've seen them, hey, let's just run a draw, right? Or, hey, let's get a quick screen out there. For Ben Johnson to stay aggressive and say, you know what? Get it to our guy, like get it to 14, let him try to make something special. And, for them to convert that at that moment of the game, because that was still 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you had a 1-score lead, like I said, right about midfield again. That was a massive play because that allowed them to go up. I think it was 31-17 at that time. And that's where you started feeling, oh man, like this game might be ours. You know what I mean? Now we know Tampa obviously fought back, but those two plays for me, the Hutchinson sack coming out of halftime, and then Amon-Ra, that 3rd and long that he picked up later in the game, were 2 plays that just stood out as being kind of those, okay, we're good. We can take a deep breath. These guys are ready to go. These guys are ready to keep battling type moments.
Yeah, I would say that Amon-Ra St. Brown one too, because that at that point you're only up a touchdown. That drive kept everything alive. You go up 2 scores because later on it was Amon-Ra St. Brown for a touchdown, which was a great catch in the back corner of the end zone. Yeah. But to be able to, and we always talk about, hey, if you know where the first down marker is, you've got to run your route to the first down. Well, if Amon-Ra St. Brown runs his route to the first down marker, catches the ball there, it takes too long. Yeah, and he's not going to be there, and you allow that safety to try and jump in front of you. He takes it to where he knew he could be open, but then knew exactly how far he had to get for the first down, and carried 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneer defenders with him.
He didn't get by much.
No, he didn't get by much, but he knew where he had to get to.
Yeah.
And he was, he was not going down until he got to that first down yardage.
Yeah, I mean, that's determination. And that's who Amon-Ra St. Brown is, right? He had a play earlier in that game where you don't see him drop many balls. And I know it was a little bit, if you want to nitpick, okay, it was a little bit of a high throw, but that's a catch that Amon-Ra St. Brown makes literally 499 out of 500. You know what I mean? Like, so after that moment, you're like, damn, that's a big drop. But I'm kind of glad it happened because we're going to see Amon-Ra take his game to a new level. That's going to piss him off and hopefully drive him to make some bigger plays the rest of this game, which it did.
Yeah, and I think not only, I mean, when you have a play like that, and you and I see this a lot when, hey, there's got to be a first down, you hand the ball off at the end of the game, and, a running back just keeps churning his legs, right? And the offensive linemen jump in, they're pushing him forward, you pick up a first down. It energizes a team.
Yeah.
that seemed to energize that team. And it's something that this team, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown or it's any other player that has a moment like that. And I think to me, that's been the big thing. It's not just Amon-Ra St. Brown. He is the bell cow of this team. He's the leader. He's the guy that makes a majority of those plays. But when other guys are called upon, Jahmyr Gibbs in the second touchdown of the second half, he's going up on an all-pro, Pro Bowl, safety, and just simply makes a move and runs away from him in Antoine Winfield Jr.
Yeah.
That to me was the personification of how he's developed throughout the course of this year. And now he's finally a game-changing player.
Yeah.
And it can happen anytime he touches the ball. We saw David Montgomery when you guys were out playing the Chargers. Hey, he gets the ball. It's 1st and 10 at the 25-yard line. He goes 75 yards. Like at any point during the course of a game and throughout the course of this season, Craig Reynolds, 4th and 1. Guys step up when their number is called to make plays.
Yeah, and I think that, a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, he's spectacular. We saw that on the long touchdown run yesterday and setting it up and making a move and just seeing the speed. And what I really loved about that play was, when he got down to about the 2-yard line, instead of diving in, like he was looking for contact, he threw the arm out and just threw up hellacious stiff arm to finish that play on Antoine Winfield. And it was like, oh my God, that is an attitude play right there. Right. But for Jahmyr, I think he's really benefited having a guy like David Montgomery too. I think David Montgomery has allowed Gibbs to kind of mature a little bit and not throw too much of a heavy workload on Jahmyr Gibbs, but to let him know what it takes to be successful in this league, what it takes to, find ways to get better every single week. I think Dave Montgomery has had a huge influence on him. And, I think another great part about this team is we know there's going to be mistakes every game. Yeah. And John, you played 12 years. I played 10 years. Not once did anybody that I've ever played with play a perfect game where it's just mistake free and just went out there, did whatever I wanted, and boom, we were great. Perfect game. Never seen it in 20 years of being around the NFL. Yep. But if you can keep your mistakes to small mistakes, you know what I mean? And not devastating mistakes. Like Amon-Ra, right? The 3rd down earlier in the game where he drops it, right? Massive, mistake probably for Amon-Ra, but in the course of things, no. Okay, we still got a chance. Hey, we'll punt it back, let our defense go out there, play team football, right? Early in the game, right? When you got the ball at the, inside the 5 and, oh man, we got tackled for a 2-yard loss there on the goal line. Like, okay, yeah, mistake. Let's take a field goal out of it. Let's not compound these mistakes into, missing out on points. Take the field goal. Okay, small mistake, right? Happens. Later in the game, right? 4th and 14. Kind of stunk, right? When you sent pressure. Baker Mayfield made a hell of a play with Mike Evans. Mistake? Yeah, mistake. But devastating blow? No. I mean, they still had to drive the rest of the length of the field, which they ended up doing. But you know what I mean? You're not making the, oh man, I blew an assignment and it's a sack fumble or man, I got down on the goal line. I will say Jared Goff got a little bit lucky there yesterday with the dropped interception, right? That could have been a massive mistake because that could have been maybe a 10-point swing. Who knows? But I think the biggest thing is when you're still making mistakes, but you find a way to limit them and find a way to make sure that they're not going to be these devastating blows.
They don't compound.
This team is good enough to go out there and compete with anybody and have a chance to win. So that's obviously been the key for, the last 2 playoff games at least. And that's going to be another massive key going into San Francisco. You want a chance to win, you're going to have to play clean football, right? Yeah. And you're going to have to, we know that San Fran is going to have some chunk plays. They've got some dudes over there. That's just how it goes in the NFL. But if you can limit the big mistakes that have hurt you this season, when we've seen a couple turnovers and a couple guys missed assignments, you got a chance to beat anybody. And that's the great part about this team.
So let's talk O-line. And let's start with Frank Ragnow. An unbelievable job and a tough task. Vita Vea, that's a big dude. And Kalijah Kancey in there as well at times. Like you got 2 different worlds. You got a guy who's a massive, powerful individual, and you got another guy that is, what is he, 6'1", 280 pounds, and can play in a completely different style of game in Kalijah Kancey.
Yeah.
But Frank got dinged up right before halftime, but he battled the entire day.
Yeah.
And, so let's start there. Your thoughts on Frank and his ability to, handle pain, but also play at a high level.
Yeah, Frank is as consistent as they come, and sometimes guys like that are underappreciated just because you're used to it. You know what I mean? Like a couple really special players I played with. You know, when you talk about Charles Woodson and Aaron Rodgers and Julius Peppers and Clay Matthews, like they're just so consistent that I think you get used to it, and maybe you take that for granted a little bit. I think Frank fits into that category that, yeah, it's just Frank, man. Like he's just out there doing his thing, man. We know what we got with him. He's Mr. Consistent. We know where, he's going to be. We know he's going to get his job done, right? He's so undervalued, in my opinion, because it is so important to have an offensive line that is not only good physically, but great mentally, right? If you can get to the line of scrimmage, and I was a guy that, I'll tell you, John, I'm not bragging, but I didn't have the best physical abilities, right? But I had to find ways to create advantages, and that was on the mental side. And, when you're in the huddle, everybody's looking at the quarterback. I used to look out at the defense because you can pick up some small tips. Hey, right, the two defensive tackles are talking to each other. Hey, watch for a stunt here. Watch for a pressure, something weird's going on. Frank has that ability to dissect what teams are going to do before the ball is snapped. And I think that a guy like that is the quarterback's best friend. And Ben Johnson called him his secret weapon. It's a play caller's best friend, because you're not now loading everything onto the quarterback, where the quarterback's got to come and figure out the personnel, figure out the front, right? Figure out the rotation, figure out this, figure out it. If you can have Frank, a guy up there in a smart offensive line that says, hey, we're good under front, boom, watch this. Okay, what do you want to do? It makes the quarterback's job so much easier in trying to get you into a more efficient play, not a perfect play, but a more efficient play. And I think that's what Frank does. And I think that's the undervalued part of his game, is the mental side of it, and how he's able to dissect things and read blitzes and watches so much film that, hey, I know exactly what you're doing before the ball is snapped. You have that kind of advantage. I mean, you're never going to get beat, right? And I think that's why Frank is such a high-level player. But talk about the toughness. I mean, he was in a lot of pain, and I didn't see the replay. I saw it live when it happened on the sack and he got rolled into. I think it was on the 3rd and 1.
Yeah. Empty.
Didn't like the play call, first of all.
That's why I threw that one out there.
Yeah, I didn't like the play call. More formation. But, it looked pretty bad at the moment. Yeah. And that, I think that was right pretty shortly after Jonah had exited the game, if I'm not mistaken.
I think Jonah went out early in the second quarter, and I think
it was like maybe
Frank
a drive or two
away. The 2-minute warning.
Yeah, it was about a drive or two away. Yeah. But you're sitting there looking, Jonah goes out. It's like, man, like not ideal. This is obviously our worst nightmare. And then Frank rolled up on him, was like, oh no, like, oh boy, please be okay. Yeah. And I was actually sitting behind the bench, and I walked him kind of limber off to the sideline, and bunch of people coming up to him, and you just saw him nodding like, I'm good. I'm good. When you get rolled up on your knees, I think sometimes you're a little bit more scared than you are, in pain. Yeah. So I think when he got up and, okay, you're like, guys, I'm going to be good. Right. He's been a guy that he's battled through, all season long with his injuries, but he's the guy, man. He is the leader of not only that offense, I think the entire team. I think guys have so much appreciation for what he does, the new bars that he raises when it comes to, like you mentioned, toughing things out and pain management. And hey, if I can go, I gotta go. That's going to be contagious to the rest of the group when you see a guy like that. That's Frank's in a lot of pain. That's in a lot of pain going out there and still battling his ass off. He's doing it for his teammates, and I think an attitude like that, a guy like that, like I said, man, that wears off on the rest of the team. So I think he can't say enough good things about him, man. He sets a tremendous example for the rest of that team.
So let's talk about the guards. Jonah Jackson went down. Awosika goes in at left guard, Graham Glasgow at right guard. And I thought, so the standard's different for both of those guys. I don't expect Awosika to go in there and play like Jonah Jackson. I thought he played fine. Glasgow. Nothing
glaring.
Right, yeah, nothing glaring. Glasgow in the first half, I thought he underperformed, played better in the second half. But I got to be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed in Graham. Some of the run blocks, it felt like he got beat across his face. In the pass block, it just kind of seemed out of place.
That's I'll preface it by saying that is a very, very, very difficult defense to play against.
That's why
I preface it by that. But with that being said, I think you're right when you talk about the expectations of our guys. It's like, I don't care who you're playing, man. Like, you guys are good enough to go out there and dominate. Tampa did some things that were really difficult. I'll just be like, John, you know this too. If you're running a zone play and you get any movement across your face and you don't have the perfect double team called, you're going to be vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like it's really, really difficult to block. Or, hey, I got a down block on this guy and he crosses my face. Sometimes you just like it's almost a perfect play call against what you're doing, right? And you still got to find ways to adjust and figure things out on the fly. Look, I'll say, man, I think the sack that Graham led up, I didn't go back and really watch the replay yet. It felt like it was kind of a quick move. Yeah. Kalijah Cansey, I'm telling you, man, that kid is a good player. I know we talked about it all last year, on our draft prep. I was excited about that kid, and he didn't really come along until late in the season either. The first time they played him, he was dealing with a calf injury, and he missed a ton of time in training camp. But you watch his last 4 games. I mean, the guy's a difference maker. He's really good. And I don't know if I'm saying they underestimated him, but really the first chance you got to see a guy like that where it's like, oh, man, I'm going to have my hands full today. However, I will say, and we talk about it all the time, and you even mentioned, right, the ability to bounce back, the ability to, man, my first half sucked. I hate the way I'm playing right now. The lights got to go on. I got to figure this out because it's going to be a long day, right? And especially if you're in Graham's shoes, you have to know, hey, when Jonah goes out, every pass play, guess which way that center's sliding? He's going to help the backup. I'm going to be one-on-one. I got to figure it out. And he did figure it out. And it was really, really obvious on Jahmyr Gibbs' long touchdown run. Graham did an amazing job with Penei Sewell next to him of handling the movement, wiping his guys completely off the side of the field, and allowing that gigantic crease to open up for Jahmyr Gibbs to get up to that third level untouched. So that's what I look for in offensive linemen. That's what I appreciate about guys like that is that, they don't let the bad plays trickle into more. And just, man, by the fourth quarter, I'm just completely out of my game. I'm mentally screwed up. Like, I can't figure it out today. You find a way to put a stop to it, get back on track. And that's what Graham does. That's what this whole offensive line does. And it sounds like they're going to probably have the same lineup that they finished the game with yesterday. And I know we'll get more updates as the week goes on, but talking to Coach after the game yesterday, he didn't sound very hopeful that Jonah will be available this week, at least for San Francisco. So, but the good part is, man, we've seen a lot of musical chairs through that offensive line. And for the most part, with the expectations and the standards that they have in that room, I'm sure they can find ways to go out there and not let one injury just completely deplete them and, change the game plan of what they want to do offensively.
So let's talk about the tackles now, because I thought Decker played a really good game, but Penei Sewell, every time I watch him play, he's so athletic. He's so powerful. He's so well balanced that I thought he was literally just toying with, the defender, whoever was across from him. His sets were consistent. He was in good position. He was balanced. He was low. If he got out of position at all, he's got that great ability to recover, whether it's with his feet, his body, his hands. I thought he was absolutely dominant.
Did you see him smoke the defensive back too on one of those counter plays?
Yeah. I tell you what, I love watching him play. And if for those that are listening, or if you're watching on YouTube, go back and watch Penei Sewell against Tampa, because he literally, and I tweeted this out during the game in the first quarter, he is literally a lion playing with his food. Yeah, because he was just toying, and at times he looks bored.
He makes it look easy.
He does make it look easy, and I'm like, God damn, if it was that easy for me, it would have been. I'm
in the same boat. I played with a couple of guys. Josh Sitton, a guy I played with, those Pro Bowler for a long time, and same type of player. Just looked like he was giving minimum effort and just completely mauling people every single play. And it's like, man, I'm over here freaking scrapping with one foot on the ground and my arms all waving around. Like, I'm over here scrapping for every win. Yeah. This guy's over here just like, another day at the office. Yeah. I'm like, man, I'm so jealous, because how do you make it look that easy? But Penei, he is, I'll tell you, man, I think that they, kind of the same thing with Frank, where he's just doing it so consistent at a high level right now that nothing really surprises you anymore. You're just like, yep, that's 58, man. Yep, that's Sewell for you. Like, what you're going to get from him. He is just, he's an absolute stud. He just is. He's fun to watch. Big part of, obviously, the run game. And look, Jared Goff, I think, how comfortable has he looked this year, just based off of, you could just tell he knows the offensive line is going to take care of him. You know what I mean? You can tell he just doesn't panic. It's just, yep, my guys got me. Hey, they want to bring pressure over here. I know they're going to pick it up. Like, we're good. Let's go. And Don't take it for granted, man, because these guys are special players. These guys are special players, man, especially when you talk about Frank and Decker, a guy that's been around a long time. Penei, Sewell doing it on the right side. It's a fun group to watch. I might be usually what's it, Monday morning. Normally by Tuesday morning, I think the film starts to come out where we can access it. I can't wait to go back and watch some of this plays that the offensive line had in that game, especially late in that game, right? We know the run game kind of not great early in that game. They actually had to get away from it for a large chunk of that game, but fourth quarter, when it's our time, right, man, they really started to come through and get some big plays there. So this is going to be a game I'm excited to go back and just watch the offensive line and how they finished the game, man. It was impressive.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit more about the defense now, because, we know Hutch is an impactful player. I think a lot of what he does goes unseen, but it seems like every play he's in on it. We see him making plays, and I know he was dropping into coverage, but he's making plays on Chris Godwin on a wide receiver screen. He's making plays downfield when it's just a matter of not giving up in pursuit. He's making plays in the run game. He got a sack in that game. It was a big sack, big time of the game. But I really think Aaron Glenn deserves a lot of credit since that Denver game. He has adjusted, I think, his concepts to and adapted to what he's got. He knows what he's got, and he's trying to maximize every single opportunity that he has. And whether it's Brian Branch coming off the edge, Melifonwu, who had a sack and a half, but finding ways to pressure opposing quarterbacks when you've really only got one legitimate pass rusher up front.
Yeah, and not really changed their identity, but just kind of morphed a little bit right, into one of those. And I wish I can remember the show, but we were kind of begging for this, a couple months ago, man. Just give me some exotic blitzes. Give me something that nobody, like week to week, right? The hardest teams are, hey, what are they going to do this week on third down? What's the package they're going to have for us? How fast can we adjust to it? The Lions really didn't do that the first half of the season. And probably starting the Denver game, it was like, oh my goodness, like they're sending safeties, they're sending
that's when Melifonwu showed up.
They're sending everybody. Like, my goodness, I've never seen him do that, And so he's kind of morphed into having that, kind of exotic look to him a little bit, right? Yesterday was a little bit different. I think yesterday, normally with this team, the past 4 weeks, we saw a lot of, first and second down. Hey, we're just going to play our base defense. Let's try to get into third down, and then we're going to send the pressure. Yesterday was kind of the opposite. They were bringing a lot of pressure on early downs, and then a lot of the third downs, at least to start the game, was, hey, we're going to make it look like blitz, and then we're dropping 8 guys, right? And you started confusing Baker a little bit, and he started kind of launching some balls, and, so I think the plan yesterday was really, really well balanced, and probably a good time to change it up. You've had 4 games now of where, hey, this is our ID, this is what we're doing, third down, we're bringing a ton of pressure. Well, guess what? This week, maybe we're going to cover a little bit more on some third downs, right? And which they did, and they had a lot of success doing that. But I just think when you talk about guys like Hutchinson, right? He is the one guy that you're saying, if you're Aaron Glenn and I'm calling 4-man rush, like, I need 97 to get home, right? Because and I'm not trying to be negative here, but there's still a lot of times where if they're sending 4 guys, it's like, oh boy, like the quarterback's got a lot of time back there. I don't like our secondary having to cover for 5, 6, 7 seconds. So that's why I think he has kind of forced himself into, sparking that pressure and generating pressure based off of some of those looks, because he wants to help a guy like Aiden Hutchinson out. He doesn't want to put that much pressure on one player to say, if you're not getting home today, man, we're screwed, right? We need you, man. Like, no, I'm going to help you out. I'm going to take some of the pressure off of you. And then as soon as they think, hey, now we got to go double 97, that's where you send the pressure from the other side and you drop 97 back into coverage and you find a free runner because you throw the offense out, right? So I think what Aaron Glenn has done the last month and a half with this defense has been incredible. And look, we all know that they still give up some big plays, right? We know that, especially in the passing game. We know that there's times, and even happened yesterday, where if you send pressure and it doesn't get home, you got a chance for a big play. But I thought yesterday, for the most part, they kept everything in front of them. And the black and white bottom line thing for me is you hold teams to 23 points. You hold last week was 23 points, right? Yep. You held Minnesota to 20. You held Denver to like 17. You held Dallas to 20 points. That's
winning football.
That is winning football, especially with the offense that you have. I think this offense knows just hold them to around 20, 23 points. We got you. You know what I mean? And that's what this defense has been doing. And that's the bottom line for me. I said it last week. I don't care if Stafford throws for 500 yards. If you can keep them to around that 20, 23 point mark, that's good enough to win. And especially in the playoffs, when I don't care, like Coach said, if it's 2-0, 3-2, or we got to go out there and win 60-59. I don't care what it looks like. We just got to find a way to win. And that's what they've been doing, man. And this defense has been a major part of that, because we've still seen the offense go through spurts now, even the last couple games, right? Last week was the second half, 3 points. Defense, we need you. Got the job done. This week, right? Offense kind of in that second, third quarter disappeared a little bit, right? Defense, hey, just keep us in this game. We're going to figure it out eventually. They did that. That's good team football. That's all three phases, doing their job. And this defense has been incredible, man. And Aaron Glenn has been a major part of that.
Well, and one of the guys that's taken a lot of heat, and I understand it if you're just looking at numbers, but Cam Sutton, when you gamble up front, when you're bringing Branch, you're bringing Melifonwu, right, you're playing man coverage on the back end a lot of times, or at least somebody's playing man coverage. It's been Cam Sutton. He's your best cover corner. But then you look and you say, well, okay, against DJ Moore, he gave up a lot of yards. Against Justin Jefferson twice, gave up a lot of yards. CD Lamb, Puka Nacua, and now Mike Evans. So people are looking at that, and we heard this in the morning show quite a bit. Hey, give him a plane ticket, send him out of town. Hold on a second here.
Yeah.
He's your best cover guy. Yeah. He is being exposed. He's being asked to cover some of the NFL's best receivers. Mike Evans, Pro Bowl guy. Justin Jefferson, probably the best receiver in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he's going to give up yards. Those guys are going to make some plays, even against the best corners in this league. Then you put them one-on-one. Then you gamble up front. There's that risk reward. And every once in a while, the risk is you got a guy on an island and he gives up a play to Mike Evans.
Yeah.
Like again, you're going to have a quarterback like Matthew Stafford that may throw for 400 yards or 350 yards, but it all comes down to how many times do you get home, how many times do you put a hit on him, how many times you get him off his mark, and now all of a sudden that play is incomplete because you got to take some gambles.
Yeah, and Cam Sutton has been through a gauntlet, man. This is the hardest stretch, I think, for any defensive back I've seen in a long time, right? Just Justin Jefferson, we know missed a ton of games this year, but that is a perennial all-pro player. CD Lamb, all-pro
career
Bowl.
Year.
Puka Nacua, all-pro Pro Bowl, right? Like Mike Evans, Pro Bowl, like 10 straight years of, Pro Bowl and all-pro. You know what I mean? Like that is a freaking gauntlet. Like I can imagine sometimes as a player where you're like, when do I get a break, man? Like, God damn, right? It. But look, I think Cam Sutton, the thing that I'm learning about him is this guy's a scrapper. Like this guy is he as good as a Jalen Ramsey? No, right? No. But guess what? There's one Jalen Ramsey in the freaking league. Is he a Sauce Gardner? No, he's not, right? But you know what this guy does? He battles, man. And sure, when you're looking at the stat sheet and you're saying, oh, another 140-yard receiver, man, we can't cover anybody. Like, that's why I go back to the black and white. What do you do in the red zone when it really matters? What do you do on third down when it really matters, right? And that's no tough task, man. I'm not trying to let him off on the hook by any means. I think there was really one drive in there that kind of bothered me, and that was the end of the first half, right? That 2-minute drive. And Cam started getting a little bit aggressive, right? He's trying to cheat the coverage a little bit. But look, that's also the other end of the sword that you play with. You ask these defensive backs to go out there and try to generate takeaways and to generate turnovers and, get an interception. Well, the other end of that is, man, if I'm playing aggressive and I turn my head and I go to make a play on the ball, there's a chance I could lose the guy, right? So that's what a lot of people don't understand. And that's what I thought he did a little bit yesterday. I will say the thing with this about Cam Sutton is that he's just got to make sure mentally that he stays in a consistent spot, because there was a long stretch of the season where we weren't calling his name at all. Right. I think there was a couple plays yesterday where I'm looking and one of them, he was on, I think it was Mike Evans, and Mike Evans kind of looked like he was streaking up the field, but he ran like a 20-yard comeback, was wide open. And you could see behind Cam Sutton was CJ Gardner-Johnson. And even CJ went up to him and kind of gave him the, hey, I got you, man. Calm down. I got you. So I think Cam Sutton, look, he's been through a gauntlet. Certainly some receivers have had some big days on us. But the thing I appreciate about him is he's going to continue to battle. You know what I mean? He's going to continue to battle. And look, we all still know that there's probably still a few holes on this team, right? We know that. Could you use some help? Could you use some help on the defensive line? Sure. Could you use some help in the secondary? Sure. And that's the thing that's going to make everybody better when they get to that point. But, I think Cam Sutton, look, this week, I don't know what Debo's status is going to be. They're being pretty hush about it in San Francisco, but Brandon Ayuk's pretty damn good receiver too. I think this is going to be a good opportunity for Cam Sutton to have one of those games where you get in playoffs, and we talked about it earlier, you need some of the unsung heroes. You need some of these role players to step up and do something special. Like yesterday, we saw it with Derek Barnes coming out and closing that game with the interception, right? You feel like Cam Sutton's probably due for one of those plays, one of those game-changing plays, if not one of those games where it's like, man, like that's what this team needed. So hopefully that comes this week.
Well, as we wrap things up, one game away.
60 minutes away. I mean, my goodness. And like you said, we were probably a little bit higher on this team.
Yeah.
I think I had about 12 wins. You had them about 11, I want to say. Did any of us really think, NFC championship chance to win the Super Bowl? Probably not. But you know what? The one thing is, and we both know this, you get your foot in the door, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And this team, I think they still have that attitude about them and this confidence about them where it doesn't matter who we're playing. It's all about us. If we continue to do things that, we've built throughout the last 19 games now this season, it doesn't matter who's standing on the other sideline. It's all about us. And it's going to be all about them again this week. It's going to be a tough challenge out in San Fran. I can't wait to see what it looks like when we get out there to Levi Stadium. But what this team has done just not only this year, the 3 years, I mean, is absolutely spectacular. It's great for us to get a chance to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And it's great to be one of the 4 teams that, you get to show up to work again on Monday, man. It's a hell of an opportunity, and gosh damn, man. Got a chance.
So close.
We got a chance.
So close.
We got a chance, man. We got a chance.
So hopefully we get a chance to bring you more in-season playoff talk. The Detroit Lions heading out to San Francisco to take on the San Francisco 49ers. We'll talk to you a little bit later in the week on Necessary Roughness.